This podcast is produced by Outcomes Rocket, your healthcare exclusive digital marketing agency. Outcomes Rocket exists to help healthcare organizations like yours to maximize their impact and accelerate growth. Visit outcomesrocket.com or text us at 312-224-9945. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Outcomes Rocket podcast. I'm so excited to bring you another amazing episode. And in fact, this episode, I had a chance to talk to both Pat and Chad on previous episodes and just taking a look at all of the outstanding things that these two organizations are doing. Found an opportunity to chat about the topic of how AI partnerships are innovating and easing physician burnout, which is a huge, huge topic on all of our agendas. Today, just to recap, I've got Pat Williams, he's the CEO of iScribe with us, as well as Chad Dodd, Vice President of athenahealth. Gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. So great to be with you both.
Thanks very much for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Saul. Great to be here.
Yeah, no, it's our pleasure. And so this episode's really going to focus around the partnership you guys have. How is that translating to results for physicians? Chad, you and your organization released the 2025 Physician Sentiment Survey, which we'll touch on. And so looking forward to getting inspired by what you guys will share today. So on the partnership side, do you guys mind sharing a little bit more about how iScribe and the athenahealth EHR is making a difference and accelerating adoption for AI in a way that is meaningful?
Yeah, certainly. I can kick us off and then Pat, hand it over to you. For athenahealth, we believe in the open ecosystem and having partners who are leading the way in technology, workflow capabilities, and really just advancing the overall healthcare ecosystem. And iScribe is one of those just tremendous partners. We're making just great strides in both innovation, but not only innovation, but innovation that's improving healthcare and physician overall workflow experience, sentiment, and reducing the burnout. And so I think the partnership that we can bring that great technology that iScribe has to physicians, whether it's a single doc practice or a large multi-specialty system, ecosystem, or health system in itself, to really improve patient care, improve the overall experience for our physicians, is just tremendous. And it's a great outcome. And so it's a great partnership that we have. You know, iScribe brings the technology. We bring, have a lot of customers in an ecosystem that we can then leverage and use. And that partnership is great. So I think that's what we've started. We got about 125 or so physicians using the joint solution today. And that's only going to increase. It's just the starting of it.
That's really great, Chad. And Pat, any comments around how this partnership has helped with the adoption of ambient AI for clinical documentation?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll echo what Chad said. Prior to the Ambient Notes partnership, we've been a long time Athena marketplace partner going back to 2017, I believe, which is hard to believe. Yeah, and so Chad is exactly right. I mean, Athena walks the walk in terms of really enabling partners like us to come into an unbelievable marketplace, unbelievable customer base, and provides the opportunity to add a lot of value. And I think that experience, pre-Ambient Notes, we built a name for ourselves. We established, I think, a great reputation, which is why we're a part of the deeper Ambient Notes partnership as it exists today. A lot of that previous experience, implementation knowledge and know-how, and just sort of that customer enablement experience is paying a lot of dividends in the early goings with the partnership. And I think that'll only continue to pay dividends. And Chad and team have been phenomenal. They've taken our feedback and have really implemented that into the workflow. And there aren't many partners that operate that way. And Athena certainly does that.
That's great to hear, Pat. And for everybody listening, a great example that 1 + 1 can equal 3. You can't be great at everything. Partner with people that are great at what they do to get to that next level. And speaking of which, burnout, I think our physicians are doing too much. They can't be great at everything either. Chad, the latest physician sentiment survey showed that it was a 10% drop in burnout, with AI cited as a key contributor. How are companies working together to ensure those AI tools aren't just adopted, but they're actually making a measurable difference in the day-to-day lives of physicians?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Athena does a physician sentiment survey every year. And what we've seen this year is that physicians are more satisfied in being in the healthcare space, more optimistic about being in healthcare And as you mentioned, one of the big drivers is AI. I think you got to just take a pause and take a step back. As an EHR vendor, EHRs have required physicians' practices to document healthcare, right? And to create these charts, but on the backs of providers who had to go and type in all the information about a patient, about the encounter, about the visit, problems, meds, allergies, everything had to get into the EHR in one way or another. And we've talked about AI over the time period of how AI could have the promise of eliminating that documentation. And it wasn't until large language models came into place over the course of the last year that real life optimism has turned, right? And where we can automate the actual documentation element, the summarization of that encounter, and put that directly in the note for the physician to use, leverage, and transmit and summarize for our users. And that pivot is a significant pivot to allow physicians to be who they are, to be face-to-face with a patient, to be able to have the conversation with the patient and let the technology summarize and document as appropriate. And it's really, I think, a game changer for the healthcare industry, for all our physicians alike, and super excited by it. And I think, what we're seeing is in the physician sentiment survey is that our physicians see that optimism. They see that opportunity. It's probably the first time, I think, since the invention of the EHR that the promise of the EHR becomes reality, where a physician can be a physician, they can be face-to-face with the user and let the technology support them as opposed to them having to support the technology. So I think it's the sentiment outlined in the physician sentiment survey is wonderful. The optimism that's there that we're bringing back, that energy into the physicians is really exciting.
Thanks, Chad. Yeah, no, and it's a great survey for everybody tuning into our podcast today. Just know that we'll link up that survey in the show notes. If you're a practice that wants iScribe and you're on Athena, we'll link that in the show notes as well. Let's talk about real world impact. And Pat, I'd love to tap you on this one. You're hearing directly from physicians using iScribe within athenahealth's platform. Can you share real life examples of how ambient AI note generation has improved efficiency, restored joy? Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Chad touched on this, but the early returns are really, really positive. We have weekly meetings with the Athena team tracking our early adopters, and the data is supporting everything that Chad just articulated very well in terms of the promise and what the actual results can be with AI as it relates to documentation. Time spent in the EHR is down. Same day encounter close rates, which I know is a very, very important metric to the Athena team, are up. These are the things that we've been trying to get to for some time with a lot of different methodologies and tricks and optimization improvements. But until we were able to give the physician this ability, which is really still a very mind-blowing experience for them. Chad and I have talked about this. It's a fun experience to see the physician for the first time go into an exam room. The exam room time can be as 20, 30, 45 minutes or longer, right? Step out of the room and literally in 20 to no more than 30 seconds, an entire visit's document. Everything that was discussed, fully formatted, grammatically correct. Most physicians see that and it's kind of this mind-blowing experience. And it's more often than not, it's like, oh, wow, that was written much better than I could, but it still represents their style and it represents who they are as a provider. So it's a fun place to be. I think we're just scratching the surface too. And Chad and I have talked about this as well. And this really is, I think, top of the first inning with maybe one or two people out. We got a long way to go. And that's the exciting part of where this partnership and where we can go from an enablement and productivity standpoint. Already a huge impact, but we're just getting started.
Really appreciate that. And it is exciting. I love the analogy of the first inning. We're just at the beginning. No more pajama time, as it's called. Now people could actually go enjoy their families and do more with less, which is the name of the game. Let's talk about patient communication and AI. So there's growing pressure on physicians to stay connected with patients around the clock. And, these tools and portals, they could be a blessing and a burden. So let's talk about how AI-driven features can help with responsiveness for physicians, but also them maintain their well-being.
Pat, do you want to start off with that one?
Yeah, or whoever. Yeah, I'd like to hear from both of you on this one.
Yeah, I think what's just super exciting, as Pat mentioned, it's AI tools are transforming the patient-provider experience in the room itself, right? And I think that's where it all starts. allowing a physician and spend their time face to face with the patient, right? And that's where and why so many physicians went into the medical field and the industry themselves is to be able to have that time with the patient, to understand, to listen, to devote that time and the capacity and the mind thought to what that patient is saying in the moment and at that time. And what the technology is allowing physicians to do that more so than ever before, which is great. In addition to that, there's tools that are coming out that AI allows us to do that allows a physician to be more prepared going even into that room before having that conversation, which also assists, being able to summarize that patient chart and all the documentation associated to it. So when the patient when that physician walks in, they know everything about that patient from their longitudinal record, last visit, what medications they're on. And then again, they can have that time with that patient. And then on the other side of it is when it's done, the other thing we're able to start to do is be able to provide communications and summaries in consumer patient-friendly terms and languages. And that's also very powerful. So what we're seeing is that patients are equally as excited and thrilled by the technology, their ability to have that conversation with the physician face-to-face. And so it's not only improving, I think, the experience of the physician, which we're seeing, and Pat highlighted the optimism we're seeing in the physician surveys, but we're also receiving great feedback on patients from themselves.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chad. It's good to know that the bookends, as well as the actual visit, are all getting taken care of.
I mean, it's truly transforming the entire experience, right? I mean, it really is changing, like I say, it's changing healthcare, right? I mean, this will be a pivotal moment, I think, that we all look back on and say, hey, 2025 is when healthcare changed from a healthcare IT perspective. It's super exciting to be living and leading through that and having a partner like iScribe with us driving that technology and innovation.
That's great, Chad. Thank you. Pat, what about on your side? Anything on the patient communication, physician well-being that you want to add?
Well, yeah, I'll give you a personal example from my own experience. I actually had my annual wellness visit a couple of weeks ago, and my provider was using a similar technology. And the difference between last year's annual wellness visit with my own personal physician and this year, night and day. Last year, and typical, it was a conversation with the back of his head. He spent the whole visit pointing and clicking and typing, and it wasn't the same level of interaction. It was, by the way, it was also about 45 minutes late because the inevitable patient wait times that accumulate pre-AI. But one of the benefits, by the way, we're seeing is that patient wait times do decrease because the provider is able to stay on track throughout the day. But this year, I had this wonderful conversation. I mean, it was eye contact, just like we're having now, right? It was real engagement. We talked about more than we ever have. We talked about personal stuff and family and kids and where we're going to get, just because he had more time to spend as opposed to having to just immediately dive into, my labs and blood work and everything else. And it just didn't feel as transactional. And that's where, to Chad's point, that's what this is all about, right? I mean, it's really about restoring the essence of that physician-patient interaction. It's pretty awesome to be on the front lines of, like Chad said, of that restoration project. We kind of were there, a long time ago, and then we got away from it. And now it's all coming back, I feel like, into the fold. And it's just fun to be a part of the journey.
Yeah, that's great, Pat. Good to hear about your experience. And this connection, I think, not only helps patients, but it also helps physicians feel fulfilled in their work. I think it's really great to hear your experience on this. I do want to make one more stop here. We talk about how exciting it is. It feels like we're living in the future, but let's talk about the future. Like, where is this all going? If this is the first inning, I'm so pumped what more collaboration in healthcare, like the relationship between iScribe and Athena, can do for everybody that's involved. Talk to us about what that future looks like and how it could help us get to an even better place.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I mean, look, the top of the first inning, don't get me wrong, I don't want to minimize the value we're creating. It's been phenomenal. I mean, we're saving a lot of time. We talked about the results that we're getting from that. They've been substantial. Knowing what I know, and still spend a lot of time, in the offices with a lot of our customers. We've done really well in orthopedics, as an example. Some of Athena's biggest orthopedic customers are great longtime iScribe customers as well. These are big, dynamic, high volume organizations with a lot going on, a lot of moving parts, a lot of support staff. And I guess where I'm going with all this is there are a lot more automation opportunities that exist in the workflow of these organizations outside of just the note summarization process. that handoff between caregivers. There's still a lot of manual fee ticket completion. Physician walks out of the room, has to scribble in orders and order sets and procedure documentation, hand that to the NA. NA then has to go and put that information in the system. And this is what Chad and I are excited. We've already been talking about these things. What are all these other additional ancillary downstream opportunities to automate? Because I think what a lot of customers, our existing customers we're already working with, have realized is this is not nice to have technology. Like, this is mission critical. This is how we're going to remain, vibrant, productive organization, both now and for the next 10 plus, 20 plus years in the future, right? This is future proofing your organization to remain successful in a rapidly changing dynamic, as we all know, increasingly challenging, administratively challenging environment due to just the nature of the industry and payer requirements. So the sky's the limit on where we can go with this.
Yeah, Pat, I couldn't agree more. I think the opportunity, we're just scratching the surface of what's there today. I think there's a couple of things just to consider. One is, when we talk about optimism, 68% of our physicians are optimistic in the future, which is a 10% increase from what it is, but it's still only 68%. I think that we as a healthcare IT industry should be striving for, everyone should be optimistic about what healthcare is for our future. And one of those big drivers is 48% of physicians, even though I think it's like 90% believe in AI, 48% believe it's going to remove their administrative burden and provide insights at the point of care. So when you fast forward to the future, both of those numbers should be 100%, right? Physicians should be excited about the future, and everyone should be confident that AI can improve and reduce their administrative burden. So what does that come to? Where does that look like? I think documentation side of it is one component of it. The second side is being able to connect disparate dots across, disparate pieces of information. The healthcare industry is highly fragmented, right? One minute you're in orthopedic practice, you're in a behavioral health therapist, or you're in the hospital. Each of those have their own notes and documentation styles. But then you go back to the primary care and you want to have a summarization of everything that's happened in a concise way that allows them to provide the right therapeutic steps forward. Or a care manager has access to all that information in a summary that they can then take action and provide the right treatments and therapies going forward. And so I think the future is it's not only about the documentation, but it's how can we connect the interconnected, fragmented healthcare ecosystem and provide the summary and the information and the insights to that physician in real time so they can make the best decisions that are there. And so that's the real power, I think, of the AI tools that we have. Athena is on as an interconnected network SaaS platform, and we're going to continue to build out those connections to enrich that longitudinal record. As we enrich that longitudinal record, having models on top to be able to provide those insights and leveraging tools like iScribe to bring those insights at the point of care is the opportunity that we have. Because it's not only about the documentation, but it's being able to identify that says this patient's at risk, or have we considered this therapy? Have we considered this diagnosis? Or is there a lab that we might be missing out on that you didn't know about because the information is hidden or locked up in some documentation somewhere in the healthcare ecosystem? So that's the opportunity. I think that's what we're excited about. That's what we can start to do and enable for our physicians, our care managers, really the healthcare ecosystem as a whole. And that's the path that we're on going forward.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that, Chad. It's connecting the dots, taking us away from the silos, making healthcare more integrated. And Pat, to your point, there's more automation that could be part of it. There's so much that could be agentic AI working on your behalf to get things done. So the future is here. It is also very exciting to see where we're going. So I want to thank Pat and Chad for joining us today. For everybody listening and watching, thank you all for tuning in. In the show notes, we'll leave that physician sentiment survey, as well as links to both athenahealth and iScribe. Make sure you check it out. Now's the time. Pat and Chad, really want to thank you both for spending time with us again.
Thank you very much. Great seeing you.
This podcast is produced by Outcomes Rocket, your healthcare exclusive digital marketing agency. Outcomes Rocket exists to help healthcare organizations like yours to maximize their impact and accelerate growth. Visit outcomesrocket.com or text us at 312-224-9945.